I was not born in New Orleans, but it was my home away from home for almost 30 years. And I was living in the lower Ninth Ward during the storm Katrina, the Hurricane Katrina. I had a little shotgun house, and if anyone's familiar with shotguns, you know that back in the day they literally could put a shotgun in the front door and shoot it all the way back out the back door, and that's why they were called shotgun houses. And I was about 4 blocks from the Industrial Canal on North Claiborne. And I really, I know when I say this, people probably think that where was this girl's head, but wouldn't watch the Weather Channel because I didn't want to hear about it. And so I had no clue that it was going to be as bad as it was. I really didn't. And I thought the night because we all rode back to the office, and I'm thinking, oh, they got all the people going out of town. So I thought, well, I'm off tomorrow. I'll leave. I had a Suburban, and I had 2 dogs. One was my personal dog, and the other was a friend of mine. Well, my truck wouldn't start. So I thought, okay, well, we'll weather this hurricane out. I'd gone through Aaron and Opal in Florida in '95. That was 2 months apart. And I'd gone through Ivan the year before in New Orleans, so it was okay. I thought we'll be okay. And the power went out at 3:30 the morning before the storm, and I was watching the Weather Channel that night. And when I saw that radar coverage, I thought, "Oh dear Lord, we are so screwed." And I don't know what made me do it, but I put a can opener in my purse, and I had some dog food on the side, and so about 5:30, it was daylight. That's Sunday, the 29th? Yes. And Sunday night / Monday morning. And it was about 5:30, and my backyard, I was in my kitchen, and I looked out. My backyard had about 2 feet of water, and I thought, okay. By the time I got to the living room, it was lapping at my front living room. And I said, well, I literally stood there and said, well, Lord, if you're ready to take me home, I'm ready to go. But if not, you're going to give me the tools to survive. Well, obviously, you gave me the tools because I'm here. Needless to say, the next morning when we were all hollering at each other to see if we had made it, I hollered across to them. They said they were all fine. Uh, Here we are on this porch, and it had the neighbors had iron gates on the porch, on the doors. Well, the front door opened, but the gate wasn't open. My landlord had a pocket knife. Well, the window was right there, so he took the pocket knife and we lifted the window because we had to get in off that. I mean, there was roofs flying, 10 pieces of houses, but so I got the dogs in, and then we helped everybody else get in, and I was the next to last one to go because I'm a pretty good sized girl, and so one of the men helped me, and I grabbed hold and got up, and so we went in, and the gas in the water was still on. So I boiled pots of water because I knew the water was going to be contaminated. And then we cooked up everything that we could because you knew it was going to go bad. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take a shower. I took a shower because I had no idea how long it was going to be before we were going to. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to have a shower. And so the next morning, everybody was kind of real, they were very afraid, and I understand that, and fear brings out a lot of different emotions in people. So I said, well, I'm gonna go and see what I can find out. And I got a broom, and I walked down the middle of the street because your sides of your streets are always lower than your middle. And so the broom I used as a stick, as a gauge, exactly, to see that I wouldn't drop into the manholes and the sewers. So I ran into a young man that worked with me for the catering company that we worked for. So we went down each block, and we'd holler out and see if anybody was around that needed help. So we get about within 2 blocks of the North Claiborne overpass, and we hear this breaking of glass, and this thing comes out through the garage windows, and I'm thinking, oh dear God, it's a shotgun. And what it was a broom handle, and somebody had was trying to get out. So the young man that I was with, he was tall, real tall, and he made it over. And I never forget the house right next to it. The guy was out on his porch. He was smoking a cigarette, and I said, "Oh, please tell me you have a cigarette." And he said, "Yes." So while the young man was getting them out, I had a cigarette. I needed one. So I wanted it, and I was going to do it. So it was a young lady and a young man, a married couple. She's so sweet. So afraid of water. So I told her, I said, "Well, you grab onto my shoulder, and we're going to walk up the middle of this street. I've got this broom. This is our gauge." And I said, "We're going to make it to that overpass." She was so scared. And so we got up there. Well, there's a few people up there. So the young man told me, he said, "Well, my two aunties are 2 blocks from the industrial canal." And I said, "Well, we're going to have to find a boat of some sort." So we found a boat, but of course the motor wouldn't work, but that's okay. So he says, "Okay, you get up in the boat, and I'll pull you to the house. Then we'll get everybody in." I said, "Okay," and then I'll get out and we'll help guide the boat back because you could still walk, but the water was up to here. So, oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I'm pretty tall, so it was right. It was up to here on me. Yeah, right here in my throat. So we go and get the two elderly ladies. They had piled mattresses up on top of each other and spent the night of the storm and the day of the storm on those mattresses. Well, they had a son that was autistic. So on the way back, was telling him, I said, "Now you hang onto my shoulder and put one hand on the boat, and we're going to walk it back." Well, he was so good. Oh, gosh, he was so good. So we got back. We stopped by my house. I got my dogs out of that second story, and I had the 1 or 2 containers of bottled water that I got. We put in the boat, and we got back up on the overpass. Well, we get up there, and there's a few more people, and there's this black tarpaulin, like a plastic tarpaulin, real big, and had like this. I always say this is just amazing to me. Had like 2x2s on each end of it. So the men stretched it across. It was a 2-lane bridge over a stone bridge. So they stretched it across. I went back down to a yard and brought up lawn chairs for the older people because we were getting quite a few older people. We had one little infant, and we sent them to the school over on St. Claude because, I mean, that baby was so dehydrated. I think about her. She didn't look good. I always hoped she made it. So, no, we didn't have a lot of children. So, we kind of, we just kind of got up there and got our minds together and whatever else we had to do. That was a Monday. Well, that Tuesday, you started seeing the helicopters. And I remembered from somewhere about doing when you need to be rescued, you do the cross on your shoulder. And I was waving it, and the young man that helped me, that we went after his aunties. So he comes running up. "Miss Mary, Miss Mary," he says, "they see you." I said, "How can you tell? I can't see them." And they would let him know that they knew we were there and we needed assistance. Finally, in the long run, figured out they did land the National Guard helicopters on that 2-lane overpass, and those pilots were fabulous. And then it became more or less an unofficial staging area for the folks from the lower 9. We were right there at the industrial canal. Folks that were coming through was taking the North Claiborne overpass, and they were either going to the convention center or the Superdome. And the ones that didn't, what the National Guard did was they ended up by that Thursday dropping us more supplies, water, and the MREs because we were passing these out as folks were coming through. They could either stay up there with us or they could go on and do wherever they were going to go. And so that Tuesday, was that Tuesday? That afternoon after the storm, I decided I was going to go and walk over to the 8th District, which is the police station in the French Quarter. When I walked up to the gates, it's all wrought iron gates and fence around the 8th District. They had handcuffs on the gates as padlocked. So I ran into three officers, and I said, well, I said, we're located on the North Claiborne overpass. So I said, if y'all got pen and paper, I can write down these. No, I had already written down different names and ages and health conditions of the older people. So I gave them to them. I don't know if they ever got anything, but eventually the National Guard did start landing, and they did start picking people up. And we did have one Coast Guard rescue, but that did not go very well at all. The young lady that was so scared of the water, they were raising her up with a harness, and they dropped her. You know, they landed finally. The Coast Guard did. So they didn't take the husband with him, and they didn't ask him his name or her name. They just left. And I was talking to him afterwards. We were all sitting around, and I said to him, I said, we are in really bad shape. I mean, these people don't even ask names, you know. And we had been told that Orleans Parish had ordered 50,000 body bags. Now, you know, people, they say there wasn't that many passed, but you've got to understand New Orleans is a very transient city. No names. People that you would, you know, normally you walk down the street, you see someone homeless, you're going to turn your face. You turn your eyes away. Well, we were all homeless. You know, we were all, and they called us refugees. And that's one thing I have absolute, uttermost admiration for General Honore. I love that man. He came in there, cigar smoking, cussing up, left one side down the other, and told them, take these guns off these New Orleans residents. These are this people's home. And I admired him greatly. He was the one that got out of the Hummer and helped that woman with those babies. Oh, yeah, you remember. Fine Creole-looking man, honey. Whoa. Yes, indeedy. Fine-looking man. Anyway, and I had been bitten by brown recluse spiders. So my leg was pretty bad shape. And so one of the things that one of the newspapers did when I got back to civilization, they had taken photographs of blacks, and it was looting when blacks were taking. When the whites were photographed, they were confiscating. So, of course. So I wasn't able to really, I didn't spend a lot of time in the water after the storm because my leg was so bad with infection. And so we had a local Winn-Dixie up the street a few blocks. And so they asked me, they said, well, Miss Mary, what do you need? I said, well, bring us back Clorox bleach. Because my mother was an RN, and she had taught me how to make Dakins. Dakins is it's Clorox and sterile water. You'll pay $300 a bottle in a hospital, but that's all Dakins is. And it's a healing agent. It's what you use to pack wounds. Well, there was a linen truck with fresh linens had floated up to the base of the overpass. Had napkins. We used the napkins for bandages and the tablecloths for bedding. Oh, yeah, we laughed. The tools, he didn't take me, but he gave us the tools to survive. One man had jerry-rigged a bathroom for us that we could use facilities and to clean up, you know. My first time of cleaning my leg, I cleaned it with a bottle of vodka. I saved some for a good swig for me. Trust me, I think I had some Benadryl that I was passing out, but I didn't have anything. Nothing. Someone had a radio on the overpass. And we could listen to it in the morning and in the evening because of the batteries. So we had heard on that Tuesday, I think it was, that the water was going to rise, and we're going, well, why is the water going to rise? The sun's shining. You know, the storm was over with, and this was the Tuesday after Katrina. So that night, that Wednesday night slash Tuesday, it was Tuesday night slash Wednesday morning, about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we were all pretty much up. None of us really slept. And I think I had walked my dogs down to the into the overpass and then back up, and I was smoking a cigarette, of course. And all of a sudden, we hear this gigantic boom. Well, it came from over around where, like the naval shipyards are. There's a Navy base down there. Because right across from us, you could see the big church with the belfry, and it was, and of course the river. So the next morning, they tell us we hear over the radio that a barge had broken loose and had slammed into the wharf. Honey, I grew up on the river. I know the sound of a barge hitting a wharf and an explosion. So I know a lot of people say that we imagined it and whatever, but I was there, I experienced it. Anyway, I was getting in pretty bad shape. I'd been dehydrated and sunburned, and I wouldn't leave my dogs. And I think they were Texas Rangers, and we were sitting underneath the tarpaulin. This was pretty much like on a Saturday or a Sunday, I think. Maybe it was Labor Day. And we were sitting there, and they came up. They had their hands on their guns, and I told everybody, I said, just be cool. They're going to come up here and see if we need help. And I was changing my bandage, which I probably shouldn't have, but they said, ma'am, you need to come. And I said, I'm not leaving my dogs. Well, they didn't draw down on me. I give them that, but it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I never looked back. So anyway, I was very blessed to have a friend because nothing worked. None of my cards worked. I had a friend in Chicago that got me an airline ticket, and I flew into Midway. And they said, you want to go to the hospital tonight? I said, no. And I said, next morning. So we called the 311 in Chicago, and not 911. I didn't want a big mess, I just wanted quiet. So they took me to Trinity Advocate in South Chicago. I loved that. Oh, that was the greatest hospital. I was their first Katrina patient in the ER. So needless to say, I had MRSA, and my leg was pretty bad. So they admitted me. Now, these people did not know me from Adam. I had 2 different pairs of shoes on. My feet were so swollen. Oh, I looked like the last ragamuffin. Charles Dickens couldn't have done a better description. But so I get in there, and I was downstairs several hours. They were running tests, drawing blood, yada, yada, yada. And so finally I get up in a room, and I had the room to myself because I did have MRSA. So I figured I would when they did the swab. Even though I put garbage bags around my legs, I knew it wasn't going to be a good outcome. And here comes all these nurses with these beautiful flowers and an envelope with over $200 in it for me. Girl, I just bawled. Oh. So, and I'm sure y'all want to know about the dogs. I got my boxer back. She was microchipped, but she spent 4 weeks in that. And October the 1st, this wonderful woman from Kentucky found her and her husband, and she was rescued by a thoroughbred horse farm owner in Lexington, Kentucky. I said, well, you go, my baby. And but I lost her in 2007 to cancer. She was almost 12. But my friend's dog was, I got mine back the 20th of October of 2005. And my friend that had been on vacation got hers back the week of Thanksgiving of 2005. So at least I did get her back. So, and here I am. I have a few more things, but that's enough. Don't you think that's enough? I've never done this before, so, but y'all were very nice. You're welcome.